Hi, welcome to this week's episode of the Mojo Moment. I'm Lisa Bowman, Chief Mojo Officer of Marketing Mojo. I have a special guest today, Andrew D. Bernstein, who is the longest running league photographer, 38 years, I believe, for the NBA. And Andy is coming to us today live from the bubble in Orlando. Andy, welcome.
Well, it's great to be here, Lisa. I am in the bubble, so it's great to be talking to an actual person. Thank you.
I'm sure you're compassed or quarantined to your room. Is that the deal?
Yeah, we are quarantined in our room, me and a few other people who came on Saturday, and we're in here for a week. And, we just get out to get tested for like 5 minutes and have to get back in. The meals are delivered and basically hermetically sealed in here. Yes.
Nice. I actually went for a COVID test this morning.
Oh,
I had an opportunity to go
good
get
luck.
one. It was right around the corner, and
Hmm.
it was interesting. I don't know what your experience has been like. They actually handed me the swab, and I had to do it myself.
Really? No, they
Yeah.
have some serious looking people here doing that. So
Yeah, these
I don't mess with them.
yeah, these folks were serious. They were all in their hazmat suits, but they used a little thing to hand me through my car window, a baggie with the swab and the test tube.
Yeah.
And as I inserted my swab, the guy kept telling me, go higher, go higher.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was not the most pleasant experience, but fingers crossed it'll come back negative.
Yes. Fingers crossed for you.
Yep. So I am so excited to talk to you today. We have had some really cool conversations. First thing I'd love to hear about is how did a kid from Brooklyn end up being the longest tenured photographer, 38 years with the NBA? You have had incredible moments that I'm looking forward to hearing about. What was your journey?
Wow. Well, it's so far back in the past, I can't remember. No, I'm kidding. I always loved sports. I was the shortest kid on my block in Brooklyn playing sports, but I loved playing sports. Everything from street hockey to wiffle ball to we played touch football, we played tackle football in the winter. All kinds of crazy stuff. But I love basketball too, and I played a lot of basketball in my driveway. And my dad and I bonded over sports. My dad was a big giant sports fan, Brooklyn Dodgers especially, before I was born. And then I became a big Rangers hockey fan growing up. And, I knew I had to keep my sort of attachment to sports with my dad going in some way. And I did love sports, although I never thought I would play them, varsity or anything. So when I took a love for photography at 14, I found once I got to college that I could sort of mesh both of these passions, passion for being creative with my camera and also being a passionate sports fan. So I became a sports photographer. It seemed like the natural thing to do.
Yeah. It's kind of that lovely blend of when you've got a passion for something and a purpose
Hmm.
and they come together, right? And it's that perfect recipe. And I think I told you during one of our earlier conversations, I grew up in Chicago. You see, I've got United Center behind me.
Right.
Big Bulls fan, grew up during the golden days of the Bulls. And when I was a kid, we used to, for fun, get in the car and go drive out to Michael Jordan's house just to sit outside his gate and stare at the big 23. It
Right.
was out there. And I had this grand plan for you today. I was planning to show up in a 23 Bulls jersey for our interview. Unfortunately, a really well-known online e-commerce site dropped the ball and it didn't make it here in time. So
Oh, come on.
I was going to have some fun with that today.
That would have been great. But I thought you were going to say you're going to have Michael Jordan here. So that was, but that was
I
the
was
next best
actually
thing.
expecting you to
Yeah,
show up with somebody given where you are, but then I remembered that you're hermetically sealed in your room, so that wasn't.
exactly. If I did that, they'd kick me out.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting to see LeBron cruising around in the background or something.
You never know, Lisa. You never know who could come in this hermetically sealed door right here.
Exactly. Well, I know that today is 8/24, right? The two numbers that Kobe wore.
Hmm.
It's 8/24. It's Kobe Bryant Day in Orange County, and I think LA. Yesterday was Kobe's birthday. I know you probably have some really special memories of Kobe. You co-authored the Mamba Mentality with him. You clearly spent a lot of time. I saw a picture of you this morning where he was directing a shot of Gianna and Luca.
Hmm.
Do you have a Kobe memory you'd like to share today?
Oh boy, how much time we have.
Much as you need.
I have like 24 years of Kobe memories. I mean, my favorite memory, quite frankly, Lisa, I have to tell you, is the first moment I met him when he was a wild-eyed 18-year-old rookie. And it was on media day. And he came onto my set, and we, you know, immediately I have to go meet the new player. If it's a traded player or a rookie, I go in to meet them, and I put my hand out. I say, "Hey, Kobe, I'm Andy Bernstein. I'm Lakers team photographer." And he looks me straight in the eye, and he says, "Well, I know who you are." And I'm thinking in my head, "Okay, smart ass, where is that coming from?" And I said, "What do you mean? We never met before." He said, "Well, I had all your posters in my room growing up." And I'm thinking in that moment, like, who reads the photo credit on posters? I mean, you literally can't read it. It's microscopic. And the only people who do read it are us fellow photographers, because we want to see who got what poster. We're in competition with each other. So I knew there was something going on with this kid, and we just bonded from that very moment. 20 years older than him, but I saw in 18 in him what I kind of was like at 18. I had an edge to me. I was a little bit arrogant. Um, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm just going to try even harder to prove you wrong. That kind of edge, that Brooklyn edge. And even though
Exactly.
he came from Philly, it's a little bit south of Brooklyn, but we still had that same kind of obsession for what we do, which we found out later on was really the bond between us. But there was this unsaid sort of drive and quite frankly, edge.
That's awesome. And so let's back up for just a second, right? You had this passion for photography, you had a love of sports, you married the two. You
Hmm.
started, I think you said in college with doing that.
Hmm.
How did you end up where you are? So what happened after college? 38 years as the lead photographer for the NBA. That's awesome. It's amazing.
Well, I ended up going to University of Massachusetts, and only because it was close to Brooklyn, and I didn't want to go to school with any kids that I grew up with, so I didn't want to go to any state colleges in New York, quite frankly. And I really wanted to go to Syracuse University because they just had opened the SI Newhouse School of Communications, which now is the standard in the world. Um, but my dad looked at he looked at what UMass would cost, and he looked at the tuition for Syracuse, and he kind of went like that. He goes, "Oh, you go to UMass." So I ended up at UMass, which didn't have any communications classes. It did if you wanted to be a public relations director or a writer or something, but nothing in photography. But we did have a prestigious college newspaper, and I got hooked into that very quickly. It was a 5-day-a-week job, really. I was assistant photo editor within the first 2 weeks I got to campus. And I learned how to do assignments. I learned how to work with writers. I learned how to work on deadline. I learned how to work with layouts, because photographers have to work with layouts that are done, and everything that was involved in all kinds of photography, from fine art, sports, news, feature stuff, portraits, whatever it was. So really got my feet wet, but I had to learn the actual science of photography. So I transferred in my junior year, middle of my junior year, to Art Center College of Design in California, in Pasadena. And kind of a similar experience to UMass, because although Art Center is world renowned for their design and their photography department, and especially their car design, sports photography and photojournalism was not part of their repertoire. And I fought through that with the help of two mentors who have stayed in my life for over 40 years now, who really pushed me and wouldn't let me get discouraged. And when I did get discouraged, they pushed me forward. And one of them introduced me to a Sports Illustrated photographer who took me under his wing. And I learned a very specialized technique of lighting indoor arenas. And it was really the right time, right place, Lisa, that, Showtime and the NBA and all of that explosion of NBA excitement was all starting with the Showtime and Celtics era. So I got involved with that, and also became the Dodgers team photographer in '84, which was one of my first big jobs. And stayed in LA, never looked back, love it there, and built my life and my business there. So it's been a great run.
Yeah, it's a really cool story. And you were all over The Last Dance too.
Right?
So would love to hear about that experience, certainly shooting the Bulls during that time. You know,
Yeah.
what that was like and any memories that stick out.
Well, it's an amazing experience to be part of the crew that documented the Bulls dynasty, quite frankly. I mean, I photographed Michael in his rookie year, and he was special, obviously, but he, none of us knew what was in store. And once he started winning championships with that first one in LA in 91, it just exploded from there. And, got to be around him during the Dream Team. All of the stuff you saw in The Last Dance, I was pretty much part of basically all of that on the NBA side. But it was really interesting for me to see the sort of the genesis of Michael Jordan, as a kid and a teenager, and when he went to North Carolina, and how, the wonderful anecdotes from his mom and from the coaches that coached him, and the trials and tribulations that he had to go through to become who he was. I was fascinated by that, and I thought the production was great. My good friends at NBA Entertainment shot all of the footage that you saw, and I had some very good friends at Mandalay Sports Media who produced it. So it was wonderful, and I'm sitting there watching it with my wife, my kids. Like, you see like a young me with the mustache and like the afro, the Jew-fro as we call it, running around, and they are just falling off the couch. Dad, oh my God, that's you. It was really fun. It was great. And then a lot of my colleagues are still working for the NBA or moved on, but we're still friends. And we're all texting each other, because we see each other in the shots and stuff. So it's super fun.
That's really cool. And I cannot imagine the memories that you must have tapped up in here of just so many years, so many events,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
people, and you've got a new venture, a relatively new venture where you're looking to bring that to life right now with your podcast. So
Yep.
talk about that.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, I've been in this business a long time, and I've made a lot of friends, and a lot of my friends are athletes, and now they're former athletes. And I saw, about halfway into my career that there was something not right about athletes after they retire. A lot of athletes fall on hard times. A lot of them squander all their money because they're not given great advice. They have custody issues with their children. They have dependency issues, drug rehab, whatever. And they sort of fall off the face of the earth, many of them. And, there's some that have stayed incredibly relevant and have been able to monetize themselves from who they were back in the day. But they're very few and far between. So I kind of had an epiphany when, this is probably about 10 or 12 years ago. I was in Houston for a playoff game. And I opened up the Houston paper in the morning, having my coffee, and there's a big photo of a Hall of Fame former Houston Rocket player cutting the red ribbon at a used car lot. And something just struck me wrong about that. It's just, I knew he was doing it for the money. I knew him. I knew that there was, some talk that he, was hitting on hard times with financially. And I just felt that something had to happen. So I had a conversation with two of my closest friends who became my business partners in a venture called Legends of Sport, where we document and we perpetuate the legendary, iconic status of athletes, moments, teams, personalities, and also venues, by the way. United Center behind you is a Legend of Sport, but the arena before that, Chicago Stadium, is a true Legend of Sport, the Forum, Ebbets Field. So there are moments, there are teams, legendary teams, like, you grew up with the legendary Bulls teams, right? But there are also teams that people sort of kind of forgot about, but not the diehard fans who loved them and grew up with them. And sports is the thread. It's kind of the legacy with families. I had that in my family with the Rangers and the Mets, and you had it with the Bulls, and so many people listening had it with their families and passing it on. How many times do I go to a Dodger game, for example, and I'll see 3 generations of Dodger fans? A kid is wearing a Kershaw jersey, and then maybe the dad is wearing like a Garvey jersey, and then the grandpa is wearing a Koufax jersey. You see that all the time. And we just saw that there was kind of a void in sports also, because we're not that interested in last night's score, but we're interested in how last night's score, or if James Harden scored 40 again, how that related to how many times Kobe did that in the playoffs, or how many, legendary upsets there have been in the past in different sports. So Legends of Sport has started off as a podcast. We're now in our 3rd season, about to do my 100th podcast, believe it or not, which is amazing. I've
I
taken
know
the show on the road.
100 episodes of the Mojo Moment.
Yeah, right. I've taken the show on the road here to Orlando, so I'll be doing it from my room. And we recently partnered with the LA Times, so now we're co-produced and distributed by the LA Times, as well as all the major platforms like Apple and Spotify.
That's really cool. And when we talked, you shared with me that story about Houston and opening the paper. Would you say that that was your mojo moment, that moment where you realized that you had this platform that could also serve a purpose, where you could bring forward some of these past players who maybe had fallen out of the public memory?
Hmm.
But quite frankly, while they were playing, right, they gave the fans, they gave those that were loyal to the team so much joy
Hmm.
through their love of the game, their playing of the game, maybe their community efforts,
Hmm.
to way to bring them back and make them relevant again. So that to me sounded like a mojo moment.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Lisa. That was my mojo moment. That actual moment was it. It had been building to that. For example, going to NBA events where they bring these legendary players out to just wave to the fans and sign some autographs. And I know all these guys. Some of them I didn't photograph because they were generation before me. But it seemed like kind of a shame that they had to do that for a check and also to kind of stay in the public eye in a little bit of, and there's nothing wrong with that. It just seemed like that had to be built upon, and that there was work to be done, and there was service to be performed. And being on the inside and knowing so many people in sports, and especially in basketball, I felt that I was in a great position. And my two partners are very strategic. They're wonderful guys. One is incredibly experienced in the world of licensing and sports licensing. Another partner is an attorney. And we actually took on a fourth partner recently who is a veteran of the digital sports media world. So we're about to really explode over here, I think. I think our partnership with the LA Times has really helped. We've made some inroads with some other things that we're about to announce. So stay tuned.
Cool. Exciting. And it's interesting. You talk about bringing forward the players that are no longer in the public eye, and that sort of reaction when they come forward again, right? That they
Hmm.
trotted out for a check. And having been to multiple Super Bowls, as well as going to NFL honors multiple times in my
Hmm.
former role, you do see a lot of that, and it's kind of that moment where you think, this was a great at one point, and here they are. Nobody's seen them in years. You don't know what they're doing.
Hmm.
Perhaps they've fallen on hard times. Perhaps they're just playing the role of private citizen today,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so they're out of the public eye. But when they come out, right, it's that surge of fandom that comes back,
Hmm.
and that remembrance of, oh my gosh, this is somebody that at one point was really in the public eye, was really important, that you have good moments and good memories about.
Hmm.
And so I think the whole thing is a really, really cool concept.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was another mojo moment actually, because there was one around the same time actually that we had the All-Star game in Dallas, and my boss sent me over to the convention center. He said, a bunch of Dallas Maverick players from the 80s are getting together. They're going to do a round table on the stage, and it's open free for the fans, and there'll be a meet and greet and all that kind of thing. So I go over there, and as I'm approaching the convention center, there's a line around the block of fans, and seemingly every person is wearing a Mavs jersey from the day, Aguirre, Brad Davis, Tarpley. And again, it's, three, sometimes four generations. I mean, they got little babies in Mavs jerseys, and I go in there and I go back to the green room, and these guys hadn't seen each other. Some of them hadn't seen each other since they played together. And they are just having the greatest time. It's like a fraternity reunion. And then they get out there, and the love for these guys from the fans was mind-blowing to me. And I'm thinking, God bless these guys. They played, but they never won a championship. They're not like the Celtics of the 80s. They're not like the great Showtime Lakers. They're not the Yankees, but this city loves these guys, and they love each other. So it just seemed like a perfect, like you say, mojo moment. Like, something's got to be done here. There's an opportunity here, but there's also a way to be of service to both the fans and to the athletes.
And that's what a mojo moment is all about, right? It's finding that realization that you have a business opportunity or you have a platform to bring forward a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yes.
this is a great intersection that you've found with that. So super cool, and looking forward to hearing about what's next as you continue to expand the platform. With our next couple minutes, what's next for you? What's something that you haven't had a chance to do that is a bucket list item for you that you want to do?
Well, the first thing is I got to get out of this room, but I'm just kidding. No, I'll be here for a minimum of about 6.5 weeks
Wow.
until the NBA season is over. I get to leave the day after the finals end, so could go to the middle of October. You never know. Um, but what's next is that we're partnering with some really great people. First of all, it's really important for myself and my partners to work with people that are dynamic, that are forward thinking, that are creative, that have experience in whatever field, if it's digital media, if it's sports, if it's licensing. So what I've learned over my career is that I really enjoy working with people who I can feed off of, and vice versa. So we're seeking out more and more entities that we can do that with, and I have meetings literally every day while I'm in quarantine, trying to kind of move everything forward. We have projects, exhibitions, events, virtual events, and in-person events that we're planning for after the pandemic is over. So nothing quite to announce right at this moment, but some things are coming really soon. So, please tell everyone to go to our Instagram at Legends of Sport and find out all the good news.
Awesome. Let's, with our last couple minutes, and I threatened you that I might do this. Let's play a quick game of word association. I'll throw out a word or a phrase, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
All righty.
LA Lakers,
Dynasty.
Chicago Bulls,
Michael Jordan. I gotta say.
Orlando,
What?
Orlando,
Hot.
United Center,
Raucous.
Michael Jordan.
Goat.
Okay, cool. I won't put you through the paces of it. I know it's going to take you a little bit of brain power to do that, and they're probably due to tap on your door for another COVID test.
Yeah, or maybe they're bringing lunch finally, I hope.
That would be good too. How many times a day are you getting tested?
One time a day by people outside the room, and then we have to continually test ourselves in the room just by one of those pulse meter thingies and oxygen deals and thermometer, and then those are recorded through an app it's sent back to the powers that be that are keeping track of all of this.
So you're quarantined in the room for a week before you can actually get outside into the bubble and start doing your job. Is that accurate?
Yeah. And I haven't taken a picture in 5 months, Lisa. So
Oh my gosh.
I'm hoping it comes back like riding a bike.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm sure it will, given your experience. And the other thing is, from a bucket list perspective, right? This is a once in a lifetime event,
Mm-hmm.
what we're experiencing during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that the NBA has come up with this creative solution, the fact that you can be there to document some of it and participate in it, pretty damn cool.
Yeah, it is. I never would have thought in a million years we would have a season like this. No one did. But the way that they've pulled this off, and I'm knocking on wood here, that everyone continues to test negative, and this bubble concept continues through the end of the season. It's a real testament to Adam Silver and all the people working under him that really pulled this off, because it's monumental. I mean, even the game presentation, when you look at it, and the virtual fans and all the stuff that they do, it's just mind-blowing.
And it's a big commitment on the part of everybody there, right? To lean in as a community and ensure that everybody is safe by playing by the rules, so to speak.
Absolutely. And it's a tremendous sacrifice for all the people working here. I have friends who've been here for 2 or 3 weeks before anything even started. They were here to document and help build the arenas, to get everything ready for the players when they came. And some of these people are staying the entire time. That's almost 5 months. And if you're one of the teams that gets to the finals, you're here over 3.5 months away from everything. And it's different, but everyone seems to have really adjusted. And let's not forget about the WNBA bubble that's down the road in Bradenton, because they're doing the same thing. It's just a smaller scale. There's less teams, but it's the same commitment and the same sacrifice.
And I think when they talk about the love of the game, this is really what it's all about, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You have to have a passion for what you do. I mean, I learned that from Kobe very early, watching him, and even before him, watching Magic and some of those guys from that era that you leave it all on the floor, and you do everything you can do. Don't ever come to work without doing 110%. And with Kobe, he took it to another level because he looked for greatness past greatness, and he was always curious about how he could get better. And he was always curious about how everyone else is great and what you do, what I do, and he was just such an interesting, deep person. And I've kind of taken on sort of the mantle of trying to keep his legacy going through my photos, through the books. We were recently partnering with a really amazing guy named Mike Asner, who started a website called KobeMural.com, and it's also Instagram, that he's tracked every mural of Kobe and Gigi throughout the world. So you could go anywhere in the world and find a mural through his website. So we're documenting the artists and the stories that they have behind why they created art, based on Kobe and their love for Kobe, their grief. This is cathartic for them. And then a lot of them are using my photos. So that's even another incredible part of the story.
Well, like I said, you've had a super interesting career. And I can't wait to have another conversation with you and pick your brains some more, because every time I listen to you, I just get more and more drawn in and fascinated by some of the things that you've had the chance to see and experience. So thank you for sharing that and being willing to talk about your experience, your mojo moment, some of your fond memories.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And thank you for starting this whole Mojo Moment site and concept. I mean, it's really amazing, because if you really think about it, everyone has had a mojo moment at some point in their life. It doesn't have to be this monumental, life-changing thing, right? And that's one of the things in my podcast that I always find with every single guest, that they have had a moment in their life, whether it was a mentor or whether it was an epiphany, or they woke up in the middle of the night and they just said, I got to do this. That's the thread that runs, amongst all of us. And, good for you for starting this and bringing that out and discussing it, and also looking at it from a business perspective too, because as business people, we see opportunity, and Mojo Moment certainly is part of that.
It has been an absolute blast. I love doing it. Number one, I love to hear the stories, and I get to meet really cool people like you. So yeah, it's there's a method to the madness. It's been quite a lot of fun to do this.
Well,
And I'm going to wish you continued good health. I will be looking for you as the rest of the season progresses, and definitely looking forward to our next conversation. So thank you so much for joining today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and enjoy the rest of the season.
thanks, Lisa. So great to be with you. Take
Take
care. Stay
care.
safe. Bye.